Hi, I'm Ginny Robertson, founder of the On Purpose Woman Global Community and the founder and publisher of On Purpose Woman magazine. I'm here with Alicia Alexander to talk about her article in the March-April issue of On Purpose Woman magazine. Alicia, welcome and thanks for being here with me today.
Oh, good morning, Jenny. Good morning, audience. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
You're so welcome. And before we have that conversation about your article, what do you want our viewers to know about you?
That I'm a humble servant of humanity.
Wow.
I feel it's my mission to help organizations be the best they can be sustainable, award-winning, and help them to care for their employees at the same time.
Hmm. And that's really what you wrote about in your article in the March-April issue of On Purpose Woman. It's called Ridding the Madness of Work Culture Through Organizational Excellence. And I will tell you, we'll talk a little bit more later about the pillars that you talk about. But when I read your article, I recognized all of those things. I've never really studied organizational leadership, but I remember when I was in my corporate world and leading how I thought things could be done differently. And I was reading that and going, oh, I wish I'd had that. Oh, I wish I'd had that. Oh, I wish that had been available to me. So I'm excited to talk with you about this. But you specifically called it Ridding the Madness of Work Culture Through Organizational Excellence because it's March. And explain that title to us.
Well, I'm honoring March Madness. I'm a graduate of Providence College, Big East, yay, PC Go. And also I studied at Grand Canyon University, Go Lopes. So both have great basketball teams and just happy to be able to support them through my writing.
Well, you begin with your article with the following. Many organizations unknowingly foster environments that lead to burnout, conflict, and inefficiency. And then you list some of the common issues. Of those issues that you mentioned, which one do you think fosters the most madness, if you will? Is there one particular one?
Um, Fosters the most madness or helps to derail the madness?
Fosters the most, like creates the most discord, creates the most, I guess, unhappiness among
I, I, I
employees,
think
really.
I think that when we have an environment that is stressed, strained, or toxic, that's what fosters the most madness.
Hmm.
And helping people to realize that doesn't need to be stressed, strained, or toxic in a working culture because it lessens the productivity. To quote Johnny Taylor of SHRM, Society for Human Resource and Management, there's at least I forgot the number, but it's in the billions acts of workplace incivility that happens in a day in the United States. And
Wow.
to recover from one act of workplace incivility, it takes at least a half an hour. So how much productivity are we losing when we can just be friendly and supportive of one another and communicate well?
Wow, that is an amazing statistic. It takes a half an hour to recover from one act of incivility. And I'm thinking that the bigger the incivil act, the longer it would take.
Exactly.
Like it depends on how. And I'll tell you, my very last corporate gig, I was a vice president in a banking arena, and I had a boss who was so horrific. She was a
Mm.
woman. She was so horrific and created such madness around her. But she'd been there from the very beginning, and it was a privately owned company. And she'd risen to her level of incompetence. If you remember that, what was the book? What was that book called? It was about how people can rise to their level of incompetence. Can just keep being promoted up the ladder. And I left my corporate career on New Year's Eve, 1991, and she was the reason I left that job. But bless her, she's also the reason I left that career, which is because I wanted to do something else.
Mhm.
But she fostered such a sense of no one trusted anyone. I had to protect my staff from her. She
Mhm.
told stories about people. She gossiped. Oh, it was just, I'd never experienced anything like it. 3 months after I resigned, the president of the company told me that she was going to be gone, and I didn't believe him. And 3 months afterwards, they escorted her out of the building. So that was some poetic justice there. But I know what it took for me to go into work every day
Mhm.
and
That
to kind of be
that
the
must have been
buffer
good.
between. So let's talk about something a little happier than that. And I do want you
Yeah.
to read Alicia's article, and you can go to the link in the text of this video and read more because she goes into a lot more detail on each of these, especially if you're a leader. And I also want to say, a lot of people who read our magazine are entrepreneurs. You can also use this when you're dealing with your contractors, when you're dealing with your virtual assistant, when you're dealing with the people who are, stepping in, vendors, people like that, people in general. We can use these deals to deal with the general public, really,
Absolutely.
because we should
I
all
call
be
it
civil to each other. Yeah.
absolutely. I call it your circle of influence. Your circle of influence
Mm,
doesn't necessarily have to be corporate. It could be business,
yeah.
because you're the business owner, or personal. It's how we interact with each other as human beings.
Yeah. Because I really don't believe that we act one way at work and one way at home. I think we take it to both places. Would you agree with that?
I agree.
Yeah. And I heard a saying, I think it's a Zen saying from, many millennia ago that says, how we do anything is how we do everything.
I've
And when
heard that
somebody
too.
says, oh, I'm not really like that, yeah, you probably are. At least that's how you're being right now. And so the more that we can get a handle on our behavior, and also how management deals with behavior like that. So when an organization reaches out to you for help, what's typically going on there that they finally go, oh, I think we need some consulting. I think we need some Alicia Alexander to come in and help us.
Well, I have yet to experience that particular scenario. However, what I find is that through speaking and interacting with other business owners, um, it's about communication. If there's a free flowing atmosphere of communication, there's going to be trust, there's going to be well-being, there's going to be a feeling of belonging. However, when there is yet um, a stress, strained, or toxic environment, people are polarized
Yeah.
almost to the point that they feel they have to protect themselves.
Yeah, so people are keeping everything in, and it comes out in other ways, doesn't it? It doesn't stay in. It comes out with some passive aggressive behavior, not wanting to share your information with the people over here because, just I mean, as a leader and a manager, I just know all of the many daily things that can erupt with staff if they're not
Mhm.
being managed from that sort of heart space rather than this head, it's this always in this head space of the rules and here's what you must do and the fear that comes from that.
And this is
So,
where neuro leadership and neuro management comes into play.
yeah,
If we understand that there are certain triggers that will set for the brain to act a certain way, we want to give it good triggers, not negative triggers. Limit the stress, strain, and toxic, and increase well-being, trust, free-flowing communication. In doing so, you get the innovation of a company going, you get the productivity of a company going, you get camaraderie, if you will, going in that type of environment.
mhm, yeah. And you do talk about the four pillars of organizational excellence in your article, and those are two of them right there. Neuro leadership and neuro management, which I don't think I ever read that term in the 80s.
Um,
That was just not really part of management training, if you
no,
will.
not
But I
at
love
all.
how you described it just now. And it's just this idea of it's kind of emotional intelligence, really, isn't it? It's
Yes,
emotional
it is.
intelligence and learning how to be in an environment where you're actually the calm influence
Mm-hmm.
rather than the one stirring up everything. Let's go back to the one of the other pillars, which I just love, authentic appreciation. What does
Yeah.
that look like?
Oh, I love with the authentic appreciation. It's actually how I started Make a Difference Consulting, focusing on the 5 modalities. And it's written in you probably have heard of Dr. Gary Chapman and Dr. Paul White. They have a book called The 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. The
Mm.
first book was by Dr. Gary Chapman, which is the 5 Love Languages, and I'm sure you've
Oh
heard
yeah,
of
I know
it.
that. Hmm.
Yeah, so he created with Dr. Paul White a book for the corporate world, which is the 5 Languages of Appreciation in the Workplace. And in it, he describes the 5 modalities of appreciation because we all don't receive appreciation the same way. We all have a different way of appreciating one another and receiving it for ourselves. So the first one is words of affirmation, being able to say something that's going to inspire and recognize the talent of your person that you're giving the accolade to. You want to use their name. You want to say what specifically they did and how it benefited the organization. The second one is quality time, being able to spend quality time with your teammate to be more productive. Third one is acts of service, being able to pitch in and help and get timely work done so that the entire team and the organization looks good and has a cohesive feel to the organization. The fourth one is tangible gifts, something that that person that you're giving the gift to would say that this is received well and appreciated by that person. Something that it doesn't have to be expensive, but it just has to be meaningful. And the last one is physical touch. The fifth one is physical touch. In the workplace, it is a good firm handshake, a pat on the back, a high five, and a fist bump. Um,
Hmm.
and respecting each other's boundaries because some cultures can't appreciate physically,
Right.
beyond those 4 that I just named. So
Hmm.
it's all um, showing physical appreciation, and all 5 helps to build that camaraderie and that cohesiveness in the organization when done on a big daily basis. It's like
Yeah.
see, that's the different thing between authentic appreciation and recognition. Recognition is you're getting an award or something on a
Mm.
quarterly or yearly basis. Authentic appreciation is 365 done daily so that there's the atmosphere demonstrates authentic appreciation.
Those are such great points, Alicia. And, you just brought to mind something that I didn't think about when I was, reading your article when you sent it in. Back in the early 2000s, I did a workshop called Creating a More Spiritual Workplace. And
Mhm.
I called it the S word because, we weren't mixing in like, because some people, when they hear spiritual, they think religion, and it
Mhm.
isn't necessarily. But I really, what I was talking about was some of the things that you're talking about here. It's like
Mhm.
kindness and empathy. And
Mhm.
one of the things I suggested is that they try this in their workspace, that they take bring in a journal and a nice notebook or something, leave it out where the employees can go write down what they're grateful for in their environment, in their work environment,
Right.
or and there was a woman there who was head of the local small business administration. And
Yeah.
she emailed me about a month later and said she had done that. And she goes, it was amazing that people would sneak in, like they'd come in before work and they would sneak in and they would write something they appreciated about a coworker, somebody, they would name names, they would say, and she said it actually had brought up the morale in the
Yeah.
department, that one tiny little thing,
Yes.
because we all want to be seen and heard, don't we?
I was listening to John Maxwell yesterday, and he was talking about, is there success or significance in your leadership? I would
Mm,
call that act that you just described significance because it makes the team members feel rewarded, we feel appreciated and valued, and that is what it's important to me. That's part of my mission, to help
yeah.
organizations respect, appreciate, and value their team members.
It's really important work. And there's another pillar called workplace forgiveness. What do you
Yes.
want to tell us about that?
Workplace forgiveness is significant because you never know what someone has endured in their lifetime. And
Mm,
being so, when they're asking you to say, wear labels of, okay, I was abused, or I was this, or I was that. No, what we're asking you to do is show kindness, empathy, respect to your fellow team members without even having to pry into their backgrounds, because you never know what someone has endured in their lifetime.
mm. It reminds me of when I left my corporate career, I started my first day with a transformational seminar company. I'd been a client of and been doing workshops for part-time for a couple of years. I opened up what I thought would be an empty desk drawer, and there was a little folded up piece of paper inside. And when I opened it, it said, "Be kind, others are fighting tough battles." And
Mm,
this is what, how many years later, 1992, and I've never forgotten that. And
wow.
I don't know. I asked nobody had this office before me. This office had been empty for a while. And they're like, we don't have any idea where that came from. And I
Oh,
just felt
wow.
like that was a message for me to remember. And so workplace forgiveness is, people have stuff that goes on, and the punishment, nobody ever grows from punishment or from shame or any of that. They just go deeper within themselves.
Yeah.
So workplace forgiveness, that means cutting everybody a little bit of slack, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Because I mean, sometimes things happen and it may be a trigger to someone
Mm,
without the other person knowing it. And when you have that contention there, you got to figure out what happened, you know.
right.
So to preclude that, just act on kindness, empathy,
Mhm.
compassion.
Yeah. And if you're creating this environment that you suggest with these pillars, there are things in place already that would have people feel safe enough
Mhm.
to be honest about some things when they make a mistake, to fess up, knowing that somebody's going to listen to them rather
Yeah,
than trying to hide things and be fearful about it. That, not everything's a fireable offense, right?
right,
And so that they could actually, be forgiven for that mistake and move on and maybe get some guidance about how to not let it happen again, that sort of thing. But we're in that other culture, that toxic culture, that can't happen.
right. And
Yeah.
and like you said, it's not only fireable but unfireable, but they don't have to be written up about it either.
Right, right. Yeah. It could be just a teachable moment. Yeah.
Yes.
You also tell me that there's a fifth one that we didn't include in the article. Say a few words about that one.
Organizational trust. Organizational trust is really the cornerstone of all four the pillars listed named before. And why is it the cornerstone? It is the cornerstone because trust is the substrate of many corporate actions. I'm sorry, I do have a problem with my right eye that it waters a lot, so you'll see me wipe it. But yeah, it's the substrate of corporate action, transparency, being able to give your instructions in a way that is understood and will be followed through. And because you gave your word, that person can rely upon your word being your word. Not
Yeah,
saying, okay, I told Janet to do such and such, but I really want her to do something else. And if she does that, she'll get in trouble. No, no games necessary. Just
yeah.
operate on organizational trust, stick to the mission and vision of the company, and respect, value, appreciate your team members.
They're really very simple concepts, but they're not necessarily easy to implement because
Mm,
it takes a shift in thinking, doesn't it? It takes a shift in
yes,
shifting a culture, actually, because that workplace culture has been in place for since the beginning of workplaces, I think, and the
yes,
rules and all of that. So it does take kind of upending some things. and just, mindset shifts and just all of that, expectations and everything
Absolutely.
else. So how can our viewers learn more about you and your work?
Oh, sure. Thank you for the opportunity. Well, I'm Alicia Alexander, MSL, and the MSL stands for Master of Science in Leadership. So that's my basis of authority on being able to share work culture. But my website is makeadifferenceconsulting.com, and I can be reached at 401-601-3207 or on LinkedIn as Alicia J. Alexander MSL. And I welcome all inquiries.
Thank you, Alicia. And, do you have anything coming up you want to share with our viewers?
Yes, on April 3rd, from 11:30 a.m. to 1:30 p.m., I have the Executive Roundtable. It is an opportunity to voice your concerns about the state of work, share your work experiences, whether good or bad, or negative or positive. And so I welcome you to join us. It's only $15 for the ticket, but it gives you an opportunity to network, to learn of other people's challenges and heroic acts, and know that the world culture is a place where you can have what I call peace.
Mm.
You can have it. It's not something that's meant to be stress, strained, or toxic.
I was going to ask you for a final thought, but I think you just gave it to us. The workplace culture is a place where you can find peace. Because if we have peace at work, we can have more peace at home and
Absolutely.
out there when we're dealing with other people. If we have stress at work, we're going to bring that home with us. It's going to flow over into everything else. So let's all strive for a more peaceful world. And part of that can be in our workplaces. I
Yes.
love that. Thank you so much, Alicia. I appreciate you. I appreciate the work that you're doing. And thank you for contributing to the magazine and for being with me today and sharing your brilliance with us.
Thank you so much, Jenny. I really appreciate being here. Thank you, audience.
And thank you for watching the Real Women, Real Purpose talk show, where we talk with real women living their lives on purpose and making their unique difference on the planet. For more information about the On Purpose Woman Global Community and Magazine, you can go to my website, which is opwgc.com, which stands for On Purpose Woman Global Community. Check out all about the community there and the magazine. Read Alicia's article, and Alicia's contact information is also in the text of this video. Thanks again for watching.